Hi everyone, it's Jody Robinson. I just wanted to do this quick video um, on stencils. And so last week I was recording my stencil magic class to be offered at the virtual quilt show as an online class next week. And if you've taken my stencil magic class, or if you haven't, you ever take it, you're going to see that I talk about this big stencil in there. And in the class, I always say that there's a smaller version of this, but I've never taken the time to play with it. So I don't know why, but ever since I was recording it, I kept thinking about it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a minute and I am going to play with this. And this is it. So it really is quite small. Let me put them both here in comparison. I mean, it's tiny. If you look at this star compared to the big star, so I went ahead and marked it out. And, you know, one of the things about stencils is, and especially this one especially, when you look at this, there are just so many different things that you might see in this stencil. And I actually marked it because I wanted to do, if you can see this little shape right here, I was going to do those in repetition. These rows and rows, because this one's small, so I thought it'd be cool for a background. Let me play with it a little bit and see, you know, what I can do. So I went ahead and marked it out. You can see it's marked there. But as soon as I marked it and then came back over here, gosh, I didn't even see these, which are what I wanted to do. These little shapes right here. For some reason, what really stood out to me is the hexagon that right now is right around the foot there of my machine. So I grabbed my chalk marker. Might as well play with that. I mean, it stood out to me, so let's see. So I did mark these so I don't get confused. Sometimes you can't remember what you were going to stitch. And then when I look, there's another one right here. So then I started looking at this because now, what can I do? And they're everywhere. Once you see it, now I see it. So this would be the other one. And I can do this for the entire background, which I like. But then I had to start looking at this shape individually to figure out what am I going to do inside of this hexagon, right? So we'll look at this one because it's the easiest for you to see in the camera. So so I'm going to stitch the hexagon outline, and then I'm figuring I'll probably start up here because then I can stitch the star inside each hexagon. But that already, to me, as I'm looking at this, that presents a little bit of a problem because to stitch the star, I would need to come down, in, out. Yeah, I could probably do it kind of like this to get it somewhat continuous, but no matter what, these lines inside are all going to be double stitched, which I don't really want to have to do. So yeah, the more I look at this, well, I know how I can fix that. So maybe, how can I avoid having to double stitch this? Well, let's just not stitch these. So the way I came up with to avoid that is I grabbed my ruler and I laid it down here, and I'm going to mark 1/2 inch up right here. Give myself a little dot. Do it on this side. It's easier to see. And 1/2 inch here. And I'll lay it down here, and I'm lining this line up with this line. And then I'll mark 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here. So now I'll be able to stitch the outline of this. And then when I get back to the top, I can start stitching this. And instead of having to go down and repeat these lines, I'm going to stitch from here to here and back out. So I get this shape, but I don't, I think I put them in the wrong place, didn't I? No, I didn't. I just need more of them, I guess is what it is. And then I'll be able to stitch down and back and down and back. And it's going to make this cool little star in here. And I don't need to backtrack. So I do need to have those here as well. Have them on every one. Hope that makes sense. So I'm marking 1/2 inch. So I'll stitch 2 of those little dots. Do I need one there or 2? No, I just need it there. Didn't need it there. Oh, I just need it on the crosses. Okay, and then I'm looking at this some more. Okay, so that would be the outline. Then I'd have the star in the center. This is complete. But back here, if I want to make this star kind of pop out, then I should probably go ahead and stitch this line too. And that's nice. That'll be continuous. And then I think I want to fill in something nice and tight right in here to make this star pop. But then as I'm looking at this, that would mean that where all these hexes come together, I'm going to have all of these unquilted. And as a background, I generally, you know, you're going to want to have this be fairly tight. So I think I'm also, you'll notice I already did it on the other one. I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm just look by eye, splitting the difference here and putting a little dot in the center of every one of those. And you'll see I already marked this other one. So then when I'm done with the star, I can come out here, stitch this one, fill these in. I'll fill them in as I go, fill this in. And then when I go around the outside, I'm going to go from here, stitch to here, and to here, and to here, and to here. So it'll give me a little more stitching in these so that they're not 3 puffy things coming together. Because I want it to be nice and, you know, fairly densely quilted. Okay, so let me get set up here and we'll go ahead and I'll show you how I'm going to stitch that. Okay, so I stitched this one over here and totally lost my way. So I'm going to stitch it again. And this time, you'll notice one thing that I added to this was that I put a little squiggle mark in here so I remember which part I'm going to fill. Because over in this one, I filled here on one, which was where I wanted to fill, but all the rest I went out here. So hopefully we'll get it right this time. So I'm just going to stitch the outline first. And in this one, I need to be careful that I stay on that same line. Okay, and I chose to start here so that I could go right in and start the star. So I'm going to stitch the outline first. You know, if you don't hit your stencil lines exactly dead on, it's really not the end of the world, because once those stencil lines are gone, I'll get rid of this thread here. No one will know that you weren't right on that line. Oop, almost stitched the wrong line. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go up and stitch this, but I do know that I need to come back down here to use these little points to stitch these. So I'm going to hold my ruler nice and firm so that I know I can stitch up here and then just stitch back and be on that same line. And from this point, I'm going to stitch down to this point, back up to that corner, down to this point, up to this corner, down to this point and continue that the whole way around. Okay, so that's the star completed. And I did decide by stitching this first one that I didn't like these being totally open. So I did add another little dot that's 3/4 of an inch up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to here. And what happens by stitching this one is it actually is kind of adding a whole nother hexagon shape to it. And if you notice over here, I don't know if you can see it, but I did end up deciding to fill that in because it needs something to make this little star pop. And I'm just going to kind of do like a scribbly stitch, and I just do it with really tight little loops. Try to hurry so that you're not having to watch me scribble. These are nice little areas, huh? Okay, now at this point, I need to get back out to do these lines. So I'm just going to backtrack on this line right here. And then go ahead and stitch these. And then I'll work my way back around and do these little dots. Now, because I put my little squiggles in here, I remember, and I kind of took them off, moving the roller around on there, and now I'm just going to fill those. You know, if you chose to mark this, I mean, this wouldn't be even good for a nice border design without adding any frills or anything, because then it would be not so tightly quilted. Whoop, almost did the wrong one. I like to do this scribbly thing as little loops, but a lot of people do them as like a back and forth or a tiny meander and then go over it again. So you can do any way you want. If you want to get that totally quilted down, it's up to you, whatever seems the easiest and gets the job done. Okay, let me get that out of the way. And we can have a look at it as, oh, it's cute. I like it a lot.